Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Racial Justice Committee's Brown Bag talk today. And we have a very special person Doreen Cunningham, who is Assistant Superintendent in the Amherst schools. But I'm not going to introduce her. I'm going to introduce one of our illustrious and wonderful guidance counselors in the middle school, where my granddaughter goes. To introduce, they have a program going about Black pioneers in the Amherst schools, people who have been the first of many different areas. So I'm going to first introduce Delinda Dykes, who is going to talk about 4 Black pioneers, and then the 5th one will be the biggie. So, and take it over, Delinda.
Thank you, Andrea, and thank you to the League of Women Voters and the Racial Justice Committee. I am honored to be here. My name is Delinda Bayman Dykes, and I am the proud 7th grade guidance counselor at Amherst Regional Middle School. I am so excited about being here. I'm so happy Andrea turned the floor over to me, because when I came to Amherst, I just seen so much, so many beautiful things. It's like, have you ever walked into a rose garden and first thing you did was you smelled all the roses, and then I seen the beauty. And so when I seen these things, I was like, wait a minute, we have to begin to recognize. So I started working with our children first, which was the Alana group. It's African-American, Latino, Asian American, and Native American, the youth. And one of the things I wanted to do was show them, to work with them to highlight some of our first, or what we thought to be our first. So without further ado, I would like to say, in celebration of the Black pioneers in the town of Amherst, Massachusetts, Amherst Regional Middle School, African, Latino, Asian American, and Native American Alana group would like to present the first Pioneer Awards to the following people for their contribution in Amherst Public Schools. I'm excited, y'all. So please, let me just get a little bit excited. Mr. Rodney Mayfield. Rodney is on with us tonight. Mr. Rodney Madison, Mr. Madison. He worked in the field of education for over 20 years, 10 years in Amherst Public Schools. Madison was recently appointed art teacher in 2021 to 2022. He's not the first, there was one more before him, but I'm recognizing Mr. Madison as a true pioneer. He's widely recognized as an accomplished abstract artist, currently exhibiting in Hudson, New York. And Mr. Madison enjoys teaching and introducing youth to the magical world of art. Thank you, Mr. Madison. We applaud you tonight. Dr. Mayfield. Dr. Mayfield is has worked in Amherst. Excuse me for a second. Doreen, can you share your screen in a minute so that way they can begin to see? So Dr. Mayfield has worked at Amherst Pelham Regional Middle School for over 4 years. She's the first Black woman to work as a science teacher and science department curriculum leader in Amherst, Massachusetts. She was born in Suffolk, Virginia. Dr. Mayfield grew up in a vibrant Black community where every adult took upon themselves, for good or ill, to help with their education, with her education. Dr. Mayfield is a pioneer as she helped to build a math and science technical magnet school in Washington State. Mayfield went on to earn 2 more firsts as she was granted a graduate minor in women's study and a doctorate in curriculum and instruction in the University of Wyoming. Dr. Mayfield is inspired every day by educators who are willing to explore and improve their practice. Dr. Mayfield, we applaud you. Oh my land, oh, I'm so excited. Miss Marcia Gomes, she's my mentor. All of these people have inspired me, but Miss Gomes has been a teacher and a professional in the music field for over 30 years. Raised in an African-American family of pioneering educators, she graduated from Berklee College of Music and earned a Master's of Education degree from Lesley University. Marcia is a recipient of the Pioneer Valley Excellence in Teaching Award in 2017. Currently, she is in her 10th year at Amherst Regional Middle School, where she's taught English since 2012 to 2020 and music since the fall. She thanks God and her family for teaching her, for her teaching and her mentors. She just is really thankful for people who have inspired her. Yes, and now I'm going on to Mr. He's so humble, Mr. Danny Potter. He's a custodian. He started in 1988, y'all. He's worked for Amherst schools for over 34 years. Danny's family is originally from Amherst, Massachusetts. Although he was born and raised in Holyoke, Danny loves sports and he's an avid hockey player, even up until today. Danny's very modest about his family and stated that his family tree is in Amherst Library because Danny's great-great-grandfather was one of the caretakers for Emily Dickinson. Danny's married and have two of the most adorable little girls you ever want to see. Danny is a self-proclaimed Jackie Robinson of custodians. Oh, my land. I'm so excited about this one, y'all. Okay. Meet Doreen Cunningham. Woo! I gotta just tell you guys, Doreen, she's Jamaican born, Brooklyn raised, has experienced many faces of racism and a lack of diversity can wear. As a single mother of 4, Doreen became a teacher in 1990 to be a better advocate for her children's education. Today, Doreen is dedicated to smashing glass ceilings and creating equitable opportunities in the field. As the first Black female assistant superintendent of Amherst Regional Public School System, Doreen helped the district increase its diversity from 16% to 30% in just 4 years. Now Doreen is bringing her vision of diversity, equity, and inclusion beyond just her own district as the founder of Another Lens consulting agency. Doreen and all the other pioneers, we salute you. Congratulations. And thank you for opening the doors for me and many others. I turn the floor back over to Ms. Battle, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Delinda. That was wonderful. And Doreen, we're going to give you the floor. Please talk to us and give us your approach.
Well, I do thank you all for inviting me to speak, and I thank Delinda. I don't know how to go with all that enthusiasm that you brought, but I'm just going to bring my authentic me, right? So I'm a bit more mellow than what you saw a couple minutes ago. And I do thank you, Delinda, for just highlighting and acknowledging those in the district who are doing some amazing work. And I just want to share my screen because I do have a list of several of the other individuals. Let me see how I can just get this shared. Several other individuals who are in our district. Let me see. Share. And let me move this over so I can do a slideshow. Right, so I wanted to just make sure that you see the list of other Black individuals in our school district who are doing amazing things. So on the list, you'll see people like Mary Custard, Gloria Davis, Talib Sadiq, who's the principal at the high school, Don Davis, Damani Gordon, who's in the HR department, and he's the first male Black person in the HR department prior to me getting there. He was there, right? We have Umi Sisi, and like I said, so many other people listed in this that, you know, our district is really proud to have them, because not only are they wonderful people, they are caring, they are quality, they are genuine, and they are here in Amherst working amongst and working with our students, showing the love with them every day. So I just wanted to share that, and thank you, Delinda, once again for acknowledging all of our students. And I also want to thank Andrea and many of those giants who came before me, who made sure that a position like this could be possible, right? For me to be a Black woman of, you know, in Amherst as the assistant superintendent, the second highest only to the superintendent, it wasn't something that happened overnight. It was the work of many people over many years to make that happen. So I do want to thank everyone who caused that to happen, for just your diligence, just your insight, just your vision of seeing that happen in one day in Amherst. And, you know, and now being the product of it, I do thank you all. So that being said, let me get started. So I tell the story that when Andrea invited me to speak to the League of Women Voters, I thought, okay, it's just probably 10 people who are going to be on this call. I'm just going to, you know, just do this roundtable talk. They just ask me questions, I give them answers, and we move on in this small, cozy circle that I thought we were going to have. And then when I saw the superintendent's newsletter go out on Friday, inviting families and the community, I was like, oh no. There's going to be a lot of people on this call, right? So let me just make sure that I'm ready and prepared for all of that. So I'm really going to start, and I do thank you, because this gives us an opportunity to start where the school committee mentioned many, many times that we need to be at, right? In most of my school committee presentations, the school committee said, you guys are doing wonderful things in Amherst and you need to publicize it. And that was one of the things that we really, really was not doing. We did so much to, as you saw, increase the diversity. We did so much to retain staff. We did so much professional development, but no one knew. And so the community was thinking that we weren't doing much. And so, you know, like I said, I just want to thank all of you for letting us be here to just once again review some of the things, some of the great things that we're doing, especially hiring people like Delinda and Rodney and Marcia and Karita. Right? So when I started in 2017, I came in and there were 5 goals sitting on the table for me. I only put 3 here, but basically the goals were to increase the diversity of our staff until it met the diversity of our students. The other goal was to deepen the learning of our staff when it comes to racism. The other goal was to incorporate restorative practices within our school district. And I know that one of the other goals talked about putting in some classes for our students regarding racial equity in the high school. So that's 4. I forgot exactly what the other one was, but you know, I'm gonna just focus on a few of them, these 4 today. So when I came, you see the demographics from 2016 to 2017. And then in 2018, 2019, we changed the hiring process, right? There actually now became a process. And I believe, Andrea, you were part of that group that sat there and we worked for weeks looking at how things were and what we could do differently. And so that group of individuals sat in 2018 to help make the changes, and the changes came in effect the school year 2018-2019. And just looking at the green from when we put the new process in place, you see the jump in the numbers. Just because it was a blind process, it was a great process that we put in place to help more people look at our bias when we're in the hiring process, when we're interviewing, when we're screening individuals, and trying to limit it, or at least help you to acknowledge your bias as you're sitting at the table with the individuals in front of you. So you see the changes that has happened since then. This, I'm going to see how I can do this because Dr. Morris put it in a different scene where, let me see. You can look and see Amherst is green. The state of Massachusetts, I'm trying to move this over. The state of Massachusetts is the top bar, and it shows how Amherst is changing, right? Our diversity is increasing while the state is staying relatively the same. So over all these years, 2017, 18, Amherst has increased their diversity and the state of Massachusetts really has not. So when we look at that, we go back to, let me stop sharing that one and go back to, hold on one second. Let me just get back to the slide. Okay. When we look at the changes, just want you to know in Massachusetts, the teaching population is 90% white women. 90%. Actually, it's 92% white and female. And so for Amherst to be able to increase the diversity in such a short number of years, it's due to the work that all of you are doing as educators, as community members, because community members do sit in on our committees. And we do want to thank you for that. The thing that we look at too is not just the hiring of individuals or people of color, it's how well we are doing to retain our staff of color. And so when we look at the numbers, we have stayed basically static when it comes to our retention. And, you know, I highlighted the 2018, 2019, just as I highlighted it to show that our hiring process had increased the diversity. But when we closed down due to the pandemic, people left, right? For whatever sorts of reasons, people left. So our retention went down in 2019, 2020, that school year. And then the 2020, 2021, things are starting to increase again. What can we do better? What we've done so far to retain was we started looking at how can we build and improve relationships, right? I heard the term the other day about teacher tired, COVID tired for teachers, right? They say that the pandemic has really changed many things. We do have to acknowledge that it's there. And teachers have been tired before, but with the COVID tired, it's just a different kind of tired that I'm hearing. And so to retain our staff, we're looking for many, many different ways that we can help our staff take things off their plates, help them to go back to that work-life balance, help them to know and understand that we're here for them and we're here to support them. And just to, like I said, improve and build our relationships with our staff members. The other thing that we're doing is we've been mentoring our teachers. So teachers who come in the first year, they are mentored as to how it is in Amherst and how, you know, just being a teacher. And then the second year, they have some second year teacher workshops with me, where we do a lot of work with social justice and diversity and equity. Like today's conversation, because I met with them prior to this meeting, today's conversation was more about acknowledging our students. We looked at the video of Teddy Stollard, if many of you may have heard of that video, where there was a youngster who lost his mother and no one understood why he was behaving the way he was behaving. But it was a teacher who took the time to build a relationship with him and get to know him. And once the teacher did that, he started to flourish. And so we talked today in that second year teachers group about how to build relationships with students and the importance of building that relationship with them. And then in our third year, we have been looking at doing some restorative practices, teaching teachers how to use restorative work circles to meet the needs of their classroom and their students. Another thing that we've been doing, as Delinda pointed out, is having Alana meetings. The Alana groups have been meeting with the superintendent and me to just talk about the things that are taking place in our school districts that are affecting staff of color. Those meetings take place every month, and we are in different buildings, or in every building, there's a subgroup of Alana members. And they get that information from there and they bring it back to the superintendent and the larger circle. And we talk about how we can address these needs. Another way that we've been looking to retain our staff is by offering them an opportunity for promotion. So when a staff member comes in and they start as a para, I have conversations with many of them to ask them, what are your goals? What do you want to do? Nothing wrong with being a para, because that's how I started, right? But do you want to do more? And then we map out a plan for those who would like to do more. We try to map out a plan with them to help them, that pathway for them to get to the role of teacher if that's what they would like to do. So we call it our Amherst Futures program. And the Futures program, we work with staff, paras of color to help them to become teachers. So they go to school at Mount Holyoke, they might take a course at UMass, but their pathway is for them to become a teacher. So far in the 4 years that I've been here, we have worked with 14 staff members, 14 paraeducators have become teachers. We also look that, yes, we'd like people to stay, but people want promotions. They want to move forward, right? So we talked about the paraeducator to teacher program. Here it talks about the 9, but we had 6 more graduate after I had created this slide. We had some custodians who moved up to head custodians or supervisor. We had teachers who became administrators. So in our district, we are really looking to help our staff members thrive, not just survive here in the district, but to really thrive and feel at home, feel welcome, feel like the district really cares and the community really cares. We've also done this workshop. It's a recent thing that we've done called An Evening with Amherst Regional Public Schools. And our first presenter was Dr. Cornell West. And, to have Dr. West be there and talk to Dr. Morris and our staff members 5 o'clock at night was an amazing thing. I go back to see how many people went to revisit and watch the videos again. And we're over 100 people who have watched it and that number continues to increase each time I go back and look. But it's just a talk about how we can do better for our staff and our students, right? What are some practices that we should keep in mind that works, that'll help our students, that'll help our families? What can we do? We're all here, not for the pay, but for the pay as far as cash, but for the pay as far as the love that the students show back to us is what we are here and what we appreciate. And the honor that we get, right? So a lot of students come back and they show that love and that honor to their teachers for just being there and showing them and connecting with them. We also, as far as the goals are, we also have included 1 day of professional development in the fall, which is what we call our curriculum day or a November PD day. And on that day, it's a social justice day. These are some of the topics that we've talked about and addressed some of the workshops that we've had. And our staff are usually the ones who are running these workshops. So we start like in April of the previous school year to ask our staff, what would you like to know? What would you like a workshop on? We send surveys. We also look at some other data that tells us, okay, this is what our staff need. And we help to put together those professional developments and those workshops for the next November curriculum day. So this year we had the power to interrupt. Our HR department did that. And with that power to interrupt, we helped our staff members to understand that when they see something happening, they have the power to stop it, to say something, to interrupt in the moment. Because sometimes we found that people mentioned to us that they didn't know that they could say something. or they didn't know what to say. So through that workshop, people were giving strategies on how to interrupt situations that were not healthy. We also had some of our paras, the next one, investing in Black and brown boys. One of our paras felt the need and the strength to provide that workshop. We have our restorative justice coordinators. They did circles. They taught our staff how to run circles and why circles are important. And then we had a speaker talk about things they wish their teachers knew. So this person talked about, as a kid going through school, as a student of color, what his experiences were and what he wished his teachers knew about him then, so that we can get just an insight as to what we can do to help our students better. So all of these were, some of the workshops that we offer. We typically offer about 12 different workshops for our staff on that day. And then in the afternoon, they go back to their buildings or virtually to their buildings this year to just continue the learning and to continue to see how they can put things into practice. So here's the point that I think everyone came for, right? Moving forward, what are we looking to do? I'll start off by saying, I know that many have heard of the report from Rick Rogers, where it talked about our retention rate for some of our administrators. I'm going to stop sharing the screen so that I can see everyone here. But we had that report. It was presented at the school committee, and there were some people who were very upset about what was written in the report, and some people who embraced the information in the report. So, just for those who may not have seen it, Mr. Rogers had interviewed administrators who left the district and some administrators who are still there, just to find out what were some of the reasons that made them come and some of the reasons that made them leave. And some of the things that were listed in there was just how it can be challenging to work with the voices in the community that challenge the leadership, the authority, and the individual, and the individual's credentials. So those are some of the themes as far as why some of the administrators left. And so it brought me back to a story that Dr. Morris had told us during convocation 2 years ago. He mentioned, and I'm going to butcher this story, but he mentioned about a soccer team that wanted to recruit the best. And when he talked about that team, they had recruited some people. Some of the teammates stayed, but many left. And so they kept wondering, okay, what can we do better to have people stay? They recruited again another year. And what they decided to do that year was they brought the new members things from home. So foods from home, items from home, things to make them feel more comfortable. They were basically ambassadors in the community that showed them around, showed them where the churches are that, with members who spoke their language, showed them where the supermarkets are, where they could get the things that they like to eat, So I started thinking, do we have ambassadors in our Amherst community, or individuals who could take on an ambassador role, who can just be there for our new teachers? I'll say year 1, year 2, year 3 teachers, and just show them the community, show them what's there, who's there. Amherst is a great place to be, but when we have people who are just coming in, working, and then leaving, they don't get to know and love the community. And so if there was a community ambassador, that person can really show them the greatness that Amherst has to offer. So that was one of the things that I was thinking would be great for us to do as far as retention, based on the Rick Rogers report. The other thing I wanted us to do was to just, I want to say thank you, because when I started, there was a member of the group, the School Equity Task Force, and he said, Doreen, what can we do for you? And I said, give me time. I said, I know that a lot of these things that Amherst wants fixed have been taking place for many, many years. And I know that I can't come in year one and clean it all up. And so I don't want my name dragged through the mud for not cleaning it up in year one, right? And I said, so the only thing I ask is for time. So I do thank all of you in the community and all of you who are listening here for the time, because it did take some time for us to reach where we are. And yes, the pandemic has set us back some, but we're a strong community and we're a strong group of individuals who can be able to move things forward again, right? We did it once and it worked well, and we will be able to do it stronger, and we can do it again. So that's my thank you for all of you. It's just thanks for the time and the patience. And then the other thing I want to say is, for us to move forward together, I also want conversations, right? Because I came in and those 5 goals were there. And I can't say that we've met them all in a great manner or completely. We're still working at it, and we're still doing better each year as we go by. But what else would you like to see happening at the schools? Having those conversations would be great. It's easy to sit outside of the school building and say, oh, Amherst is not doing this. Oh, they're the same. It's the same thing again, different faces. But if you can come in and talk and say, these are some of the things we're looking for, let's see how we can partner and work together to get to those goals, right? So I ask for your voices. I know a lot of times during the school committee meetings, it's a one-way conversation, right? You're not able to speak to me as I present. But here today, you have an opportunity. It's 6:39, right? And I think we're scheduled to sit on this call at least until 7:15. So when I stop talking, I'd like the floor to be open just to hear your voices, because all of you came out here for a reason. Because you either wanted to hear me say something or you wanted to know more about something. And I may not have touched it in anything that I just presented, because I just really and truly just presented what we showed the school committee back in December, because I'm not sure if many of you were there. So I just wanted to show, these are some of the things we're doing in our schools. And I think we're doing a great job in our school, but we can do a better job. Yes, I always say that we can always do better. And with the community at our side, we can be very strong and a force to be reckoned with. So with that, I'm going to pause for a minute and just open the floor to anyone who may have a question. Andrea, if that's okay with you, just open the floor to anyone who may have a question before we move on.
Doreen, can honorees selfishly ask questions of the League of Women Voters members?
Andrea?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
I wanted to selfishly ask you a question.
Oh, sure.
Although now, so we talked a lot about masking, and I see the background. I'm like, oh no, don't look. But you gotta look, because I didn't clean it up. So we actually do a climate change carnival at the middle school. And I know you talked about climate justice. So I would love to have that be a connecting point.
Oh.
We would like to do, if we're thinking about some of Doreen's talking points, like part of the climate change carnival is we intentionally go out and we get queer bodies, brown bodies, women who are all doing scientific and climate change work, community members, and we bring them to campus. We had a really amazing event for the whole school, not this year, but last school year. We hope to do it next school year and in every other year cycle. And so I would really love to connect with you, because I think that school community inquiry process where we intentionally seek out, again, people with different bodies and different embodiments and different genders and different sexualities and different, everything, who are doing work that you don't see is powerful. So I'd love to do some coordination around that. So I'm just putting that out there because I want stuff.
Thank you. Now we will follow it up. Martha Hannah is involved. Alice is more doing with the health, but we need to connect to each other. We really do. We can do so much in the schools. I agree. I'm a retired teacher and I do know what that's about. And it's really, it's so good to hear, and so much enthusiasm from some of you. I'm just so happy that things are happening the way they're happening.
Mhm. Yes, hi. So I'm Martha, and I'm a planetary scientist. I didn't move here until after I retired, and then I took a second retirement job teaching at UMass for a while, but I just wrote down your email there. So, if you, contact Andrea, you can contact me. I would be happy to talk with you about how I might be able to contribute.
Yeah,
That would
Martha's
be
very,
wonderful.
Martha's
Thank you.
very, very, very underrating herself. Martha worked for NASA. You know,
She's a
she wasn't
rocket
just
scientist.
a government work. But
Okay.
she's on our racial justice task force, and absolutely, we have some people. We have, an entire area that's a part of a league that I know they would love to connect to the kids, because that's really what it's about. It's, oh wow, this is exciting. I'm getting.
Can I ask what your name is, K teacher girl?
I am not deft at putting my name up there. I can't figure out to take my email off. I'm
That's
Karita.
okay.
I'm Karita Mayfield.
Oh,
She was
thank
one of
you.
the persons who was
Got the
honored
awards.
tonight.
You're an
Yes,
honor.
yes.
Okay, now a
And so I
face
do
to a
see-
name.
I see Nancy's hand up. If Nancy,
Yeah, thank you. Doreen, I want to thank you for all of the work that you've done. I'm really impressed with the progress. I'm a longtime resident of Amherst. My children and some of my grandchildren have gone through the Amherst schools. I have seen the town change enormously from when I first came, with much more diversity in the population and diversity in the public schools, which is wonderful. You showed us some really good statistics about the increase in staff and teachers and administrators of color of one kind or another. But I didn't see statistics as how that compares to the percentage of students and the student population. Can you tell us how that's going?
you are right. And it has, it's almost mirrored to the student population. I'm
Uh-huh.
almost there. So if we have, let's say, when I started, we were at 17%, and we had about 45% of our students are say self-identify as students of color. Right now, we are about, like I said, we're actually about 32% identifying as individuals of color. And so we're still moving along, but we're not at the 45% as yet, but we're getting closer.
Thank you.
Mhm. And Ash.
Yeah, I'm really inspired. I'm at the Center for International Education at the University of Mass, and I've actually spent about 40 years working in Africa and the Middle East in education. When I came back here and started work, I've always wanted to get more involved in the schools, and this is so inspiring, the transformations that I don't think very many people in the town know about. And I think you're right. They need to know about it because,
Hey, Ash, did we work together at UMass?
yeah.
Okay, I thought I recognized you. It's good to see you again.
Yeah.
Hi.
Great. Good.
I'm like, I
But,
think I know you.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
But it's just really inspiring, and I particularly like your awards because they in addition to Danny, who's a great story, but also you're rewarding people for their creative contribution. And one of the things our schools don't do well is release the creative potential of kids by having them get engaged with arts and music and by honoring staff that way. I think it sends a message, and it's a very important one, because really education has to be about coming forth and gaining your potential, and you don't do that by studying for MCAST, frankly. But another thing that you may know, that the League and the Racial Justice Committee has been really thinking hard about the idea of increasing diversity in town government and in the committees and so forth. And they're having a hard time even now. And I think the story that you tell about the transformations that you've been able to do, and how you actually not just get people there, but you work to keep them by establishing a community and support, is so important. And I think you have a lot to offer the town governance in terms of how they might do business. So that's just, I have questions, but I'm going to just say at this point, it's just really thanks so much for your presentation. And we're so inspired by it.
If I can say in my teacher's voice, Mr. Ash, if I had a gold star, I would put it right in the center of your forehead, because you really, really, really summed up what we're trying to do in a nutshell.
I'll give you an example. Doreen said I worked with her at the beginning when we were trying to hire, and I had like an attitude. I was like, what do you mean I can only look at the resume, but I don't get to talk to the people? And then, you know, they divided us up, and some of us picked people based on what we saw in the resume, and the people who interviewed them never saw their resumes. So they didn't make assumptions because this one went to Harvard and this one went to, you know, whatever, Greenfield community plus such and such. They couldn't make a distinction based on those things. And there was just a lot of learning that went into that. I mean, that's not the only thing she did, but after a while, I just stopped doubting and just started listening and really becoming part of it, and just was very happy that we were able to do those kinds of things, because that really, you know, you can always learn, you really can. And I'm glad to see that it's continuing, and that, you know, that my prayers have been answered, that you've been given time. So.
Thank you. Marcia?
Thank you. I just want to thank Andrea Battle, the League of Women Voters, Doreen and Delinda, and the other recipients for all you do. I have to say that I have been honored and privileged to watch the transition before Doreen became the assistant to superintendent and director of diversity, equity, and other programs. And I have watched such grace and magical ability to remain calm under the most stressful situations. I have to say that there was certainly a period when the resistance to the work that Doreen was doing to help our mission statement on the website, which brought me to Amherst because I was shopping around for different districts in the area when I left Needham Public Schools, where I was for 9 years. And I looked at that diversity statement, I looked at the work that I did. I said, well, they're doing the work. Yeah, everybody has all those issues over, and none of that stuff is new, but they're doing the work. But when I saw what Doreen was able to do and accomplish in such a short period of time, I was astonished and also concerned about the resistance and how much of it was directed to Doreen. Thank you so much for all the work you did, for supporting and retaining staff of color and helping to create a community that can go through the growing pains of this transition. Because it was, you know, I don't want to go down the path, but it was quite difficult to watch. And so we've gone from that to a situation where now, instead of everyone concerned that two people of color talking in the hall are trying to create an insurrection, that we can laugh and giggle, and we're allowed to have friends too. People of color can have friends without them assuming that we have some plan to, you know, to make things unfair for everybody else, while trying to create equity in our school system. Thank you so much for your patience, your endurance, and your grace.
Thank you. I do want to say that it really was tough that first year with all the pushback, right? But I do have this one saying that I live by, and it's stand for what you believe in, even if you're standing alone. And so, you know, I knew how important the work was, and the work continues to be. And so no matter how much pushback, sometimes I have to go and take a rest, right? Take a break for a minute, or go to, you know, that group of people that I can rely on to just be there as a support. But I do get back up and get back in, and it's not just a me thing, right? So you see the individuals who are here on the call supporting, And I know I can go to any one of them to say, you know what, I need some help here. And so on this call, I'm saying to the community, if you are able to join in, share that mentorship that you can offer, you know, not just let it be us in the schools, let it be a we as a community in Amherst are going to surround our staff, surround our teachers, surround our families, and support them and help them with whatever it is they need to thrive. So, you know, that's just how I look at things. Adrienne?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I so I'm going to add my thanks to you, and I've been here through many years as a resident of Amherst, and like I've been here 50 years or so. I've watched many transitions in town. I've watched the bumps and the bruises as our community has diversified in number and color, a very beautiful thing. And I have to say, if I may call you Doreen, I have had a great deal of admiration for you because even as the report that recently came out from Mr. Rafe Ryan, I say how fortunate that we were able to retain you. May I ask, how is it that we have been fortunate enough to retain you? Why did we keep you while we left several very talented women of color in administrative positions? I hope I'm not putting you on the spot, but as community members, as league members, as people who support education, public education, our Amherst schools, I hope you can help us understand that.
Just for me, as mentioned, there were many who are on this call, like Andrea. She has reached out to me and she's like, Doreen, anything you need. You know, just people who reach out and they might not be upfront, but they text me or they call me or they email me and they're like, I'm here to support you. You let me know what you need and I'm there. And just knowing that I have the backing of so many and just knowing the purpose and how it will benefit so many. You know, as you saw in my bio that Delinda read, it talked about me being faced with so many forms of racism, so many things that I, you know, if I were to talk about it here on this call, I would actually break down, right? So many times that things have happened where now I'm saying to myself, I can make a difference for others so that they don't have to face it. And those are the kind of things that keep me going. You know, when we talk about, you know, the difference between some of the things that the town is doing and the things that it's doing. If you talk to many of these people, I have one-on-one conversations with people. I call people up and invite them to interview with us, right? Delinda can be a testimony to that. I called her up. I said, hey, I'm looking here and, you know, I see your information and I'd like to talk to you about joining the Amherst community. And she was like, oh, I'm not going to be there to just check a box. And I'm like, oh, you don't know me. You're not going to be here to just check a box. And she's here and she's doing wonderful things, like so many on that slide, you know, with their names listed. So many people are doing so many good things. And to just sometimes stop and breathe and say, wow, we're doing this. And neighboring towns are asking us, how are we doing this? We're doing you know, when I look at that slide and see the numbers, you know, I'm like, and know the people behind those numbers, it's amazing to me too, to see the work that we've done and the work that the community is working at doing to retain everyone with us. Marcy?
Okay, so I want to add to the feeling of inspiration and just how appreciative I am. This is just such a wonderful, wonderful thing that's happening right here. I also just want to point out that there are several of us on the call who are part of the Racial Justice Committee of the League. And of course, other wonderful League members as well. But the RJC, like, we are here for you. And if there are ways that we as our little humble body, but we have, we're under the auspices of the league. We have some sense of something, I don't know what exactly, but let us know how we can be of help to you. And if there's a meeting that you need support, if you need us to write a letter to the superintendent, to the town manager, that's part of how we express our support for racial justice work that's going on in town. We've gotten involved in some of the issues in town side in terms of, the community safety working group and the big changes that they've brought forth in terms of safety in Amherst, and really, as Ash was saying, changing the demographics of who works in town and who's on these committees, et cetera, et cetera. But I just really want to formally, invite you to call on us. And Andrea can be our liaison or call me or any of us, but please know that we're here and we've got you back too.
Thank you so much. And Alice?
I just found that my mouse has died, but so I can't turn off my hand. I just want to say that I think one reason you're doing so well is because you're such a warm person, and your personal skills make such a difference, I think. And I don't really know what else to say, but you're exuding warmth, and I think that really helps people to feel supported. And now I have to figure out how to make my mouse change the battery. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you for inviting. And Adrienne?
I'm sorry, I'm stuck with my hand out, but I
Okay.
repeat all the good wishes that have been extended to you, Maureen. We're supporting you individually, collectively. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Martha?
Yes, hi. Yeah, so I wanted to add my thanks and inspiration too. I'm somebody who moved here after I retired, so I never had direct experience in the school system, but I'm a member now of our Racial Justice Committee. And one question I would like to ask is, there's a lot of students in the high school, also maybe even in the middle school, who are feeling that they, want to do things to help the larger issues in the community and so on, and wonder if there are any suggestions of better ways we could interact, or, one thing that our committee has talked about is whether there would be some ways that, a high school student could be sort of a member or associate member or something of any of the town committees to help, get involvement, get their views involved, and or other things that we could do. And so, any thoughts or suggestions you'd have along those lines would be helpful.
Well, I would stop first to say thank you for including our students. That's the greatest thing, to hear student voices, because they're the ones who we always say things trickle down to, right? And so, I know at the middle school, Delinda has the Alana for students, and she might be a perfect person for, you to connect with, so that the students at the middle school can have a voice in some of the issues that are taking place or some of the changes that we're looking for.
Yeah.
And then at the high school, I can always find out from the leaders there as to how they can include students in what's going on with the towns and on your committees.
I know that Marcia is currently working with a group. Marcia, can you just share a little bit about the group that you've already been working with for a while?
Sure. Our principal, Diego, Sharon, and I, with the help of Marta Guevara, started the first middle school group of Minority Student Achievement Network students. So Minority Student Achievement Network is a national organization that's headquartered at the University of Wisconsin, I believe, and our high school students have been participating in it for years. And this was last year was the first year they invited middle school students. So I think probably the AMSAN might be a good way to work with both the high school and the middle school, because it's a leadership training program that is teaching social justice, climate justice, racial justice, and training leaders to make positive changes in their schools, their communities, and beyond. So that might be a good way to reach out to kids who are already in the process of learning how to become leaders.
And one more thing I would like to share about our middle school. We have a dynamic student government. I mean, when I tell you these students were running for office and saying their speeches and passing out their all I can say is that our student government will be another source that you guys can tap into. So thank you.
I would also add, I know that Rodney is also on the call and has been honored that there are quite a few robust after-school activities that support a wide variety of our students. Thinking about like the purpose of an after-school club is to have a spot that where you're connected to community, but you're engaged in your passion. And I think for middle schoolers in a time of a pandemic, they're disconnected, they're acommunal, there's no real space for them to just be without like the censure of, are you late? Where's your path? Da, 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 da. Get it, get it done. Great assessment. And Rodney runs a robust club. So I would not also negate those kinds of experiences. I think they give a kid a place to be. And I think there's a real power in that. And my kids love Rodney's classes and their club and his club. So I don't want to like neglect that aspect of what kids are doing.
Thank you. And I see Ash.
Yeah,
You're muted.
trying to, there we go.
There you go.
Yeah, thank you. It's Black History Month, and one of the things that really has is so troubling in our larger society, the country of America, is the degree of denial and ignorance about Black history, and the difficulties of having the schools actually embrace a much deeper understanding, and especially at middle school level, but at all levels, of our history. And I say our history, I mean all history, everyone's history. And I know that I haven't been up to date recently about efforts in the schools, but I wonder how you're doing in terms of the larger curriculum issues that deal with the full history and the full honesty and truth. And I know that I kind of think in the background too, and it may not be too evident here, but you know, the whole nonsense about critical race theory and the curriculum. This is not an easy question, but I thought I'd just put it on the table given the opportunity to be with you all. Thank you.
Right, so I'm going to answer a part, and then I'd like for Marcia, if possible, to get more in depth into it. But I know that not last summer, but the summer before, we started working on re-looking at our elementary and middle school curriculum in language arts, especially, and what students are learning about race and identity and things like that. And then the curriculum was piloted at Crocker, and this year Wildwood and Fort River were to adopt, at least at the grade levels of 1, 2, and 3. So they were going to start adopting that curriculum as of January, last month, to include it in their curriculum. And I turn it over to Marcia because I know that she was part of the group that was working on the same topic for the middle school.
I was, and I invite anybody else, Karita, who remembers where I left off. One of the things that we were trying to do during the pandemic is take the opportunity to incorporate racial equity into different and not just into English, but to create themes that would allow us to look at racial equity in different disciplines. And I know in English, we tried to feature authors of color, and I actually was only part of that committee for the summer right before I switched from English to music. But I know that that the social studies curriculum had students read Stamped, and we went way beyond just thinking, let's throw some books in there that have authors of color. It was trying to take a thread and have it go all the way through the entire curriculum, and then tie in at the end of the year climate justice with the wonderful, amazing only field trip, a school-wide field trip that we really had, which was the climate Carnival, which was going to be, which we were able to adapt to have outside in our school and still be safe in the first year of the pandemic. So some of the titles that remained in English language arts were The Ninth Ward by Jewel Parker Rhodes, which gives you a little bit of climate justice during Hurricane Katrina, and showing the disparity and who was in the Ninth Ward and how that came to be. Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry is a classic that replaced To Kill a Mockingbird, which had been taught because it has so many wonderful tools, writing tools and figurative language that we can teach, but we could teach the same ones with one that didn't have such negative images of people of color who don't have a sense of agency in their lives. So we switched that. Same time period, also a young protagonist who's African-American, an African-American family who owned 400 acres of land and survive and thrive even in the midst of great danger during the Jim Crow era and the beginning of the Klan. So that's what I know, but that's just my 2 cents. Can anybody fill in where I left off? Because I leave off in 2021 when I switched to teaching music.
I think you did a comprehensive job. I mean, there were some really incredible projects that came out of that. And they're also reading, they're in the middle of Anne Frank right now. So I feel like there's some work to do, but there's some really amazing things happening in language arts that is connected a lot to our social studies curriculum. And I think English and social studies are doing a very good job being synergistic, like being supported by like mapping in place and time and what's happening in the books. And I think even the sciences are doing a good job of talking about like what the actual nature of discovery is. Like discovery is really about claiming versus knowledge, right? And differentiating. So I think you did a really nice job, Marcia.
Thank you. Yeah, great.
And there's no one here from the high school, but I do know that Gloria Davis at the high school has been doing a lot of work with the curriculum department or in changing around some of the content in the programs and the classes that she teaches. And they're looking to extend that further because there are other people at the high school who have joined their voices in looking at our curriculum and seeing how to make it more, actually better for our students so that they can be successful and understand the issues of race, diversity, equity, etc. in the world. And Rebecca.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much for doing this presentation, and to Andrea, who really is helping to put these brown bags together. Marcy's given me a poke, and it's a good poke because I have all the school people on. So the League of Women Voters of Amherst has a grant program, and we are trying to give money away. And so you should talk to a league member. You could email, well, if you go on our website, you should be able to find the information. We give grants to all kinds of projects. They have to relate to our program book, which is also online, but racial justice, social justice, homelessness, climate change, we cover a lot of different areas. And we'll give grants up to $1,000, and the application is very simple and it's on a rolling basis. So pretty low pressure, and we really were encouraging people of all ages to try and take advantage of this. So if you have any questions, you can, go through the league website, or Andrea could, put you in touch with me or Bonnie Isman, or there's a bunch of us that are part of that. And so thank you so much for all the work that you're doing. I know it's hard work, but it needs to be done, and you're doing it. So thank you.
I'll just add that I put in the chat just the paragraph about the grants that is on the website. And obviously we can't do anything that relates to any kind of campaigning or anything that has to do with partisanship. But other than that, it's pretty open.
Thank you. Mary Lou?
Hi, Doreen. Hi, this is Mary Lou Conca. I've been working with the schools both inside as an employee and outside in various groups. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about the restorative justice coordinator, who is a new position. The young man is Aaron Buford, and I'll tell him all about what you all are talking about. I think there was someone speaking earlier, I've forgotten the name, who wanted involvement with high schoolers. I will suggest that to Aaron. And Rebecca, you and I have worked on the wellness committee. So I recognize you here. And I'm very excited about learning that you have grant money, which is something else that I'm going to relate for students. It's called PAR, peer, I've forgotten exactly, peer action research, wherein the students conduct surveys, and there's hopefully going to be a summer school program. We are applying for grant money for that, where the students, I always say children, will get some kind of school credit. And so thank you. I'm glad.
Participatory action research, you mean the type of work that Michelle Fine does with learners?
Oh, I don't know about Michelle. I don't know about her. Michelle Fine?
Oh God, yeah. So she is one of the pioneers of participatory action research. So she.
Oh, that's it. Participatory. I wrong P. I said peer.
There's lots of P's in the world. Yeah, but she's actually come to Amherst a couple of times, I think to the aegis of Bailey Jackson out of the UMass College of Ed. But she actually she and Michelle Camerata wrote a really incredible guide to participatory action research that if you're going to do this work, that definitely would be an incredible resource. And they are actually really amenable. So if you email them, they have a whole website and all these incredible guides. They're incredibly generous thinkers and women. So definitely you can email them. I emailed them for my dissertation work, and they were really quite lovely.
Wow. Could you slow down and say the name? I'll write it down.
I can put it in the chat.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And before we go further, I just want to thank Mary Lou too, because she was one who reached out to have the RJ coordinator position. She and a group, the School Equity Task Force RJ subcommittee, reached out to the schools to have a position like that. And not only do we have one at the high school, we now have one at the middle school. So, thank you, Mary Lou, for your work and the work of the School Equity Task Force, as it was called at that time, and putting in a position like this in our school district's site or vision, so that we are there to help the students. And with that, Phyllis.
We have more money. Besides the civil engagement grant, we have $1,000 scholarship that we give to a senior. We didn't give one when there was no school. So have your seniors look for it. It's in the counselor office, and we want to give it away. It's $1,000. So please take advantage And I want to say thank you to all of you. You're absolutely fabulous. And I hope you all join us in the league. We need you. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Oh, lower.
Before we end up going, I want to make sure to say to everyone that's here, before you leave, when we go to leave, please, there's a data collection that we do, and it really helps support the league's efforts and try to find out where we're going. And we're really making a difference in the state, and the state is interested in DEI. It's a major thing nationally with the league and the state also. We as an individual league are really working at it, as well as all types of things in terms of climate and health and all that kind of thing. So by all means, when you leave, there'll be a little thing, just fill out the, just check the boxes and really help us out so that we get an idea of how you feel. It'll only take you a few minutes, okay? Everybody say yes, okay? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And I would like to say thank you, Doreen. I'm so grateful. I remember when you first got here and I said, listen, you need me, just I'll come. But, and I was like, Doreen, you know what you're talking about? This is crazy. And she was just, trust me. I said, okay. And then I realized this is not crazy. This is great. And it's a good thing because you take criticism, you take people questioning you without getting uptight. And that is a key to really good leadership. And I see how things work when you do stuff like that. So thank you so much. And thank you for coming. And Delinda, keep working. And Marcia, all of you. I mean, I'm so impressed with things that are going on in the middle school. I mean, that, because, like I said, I have a 7th grader. Good luck with her. Anyway, yes, I keep asking God, why I got to do this twice, with a daughter and a granddaughter. Okay. But anyway, but really, and she does the art club. She likes that. And that's, that excites her every week. So, I'm just really very, very pleased. And may we continue to support you and do everything we can to make your life easier so that you can do the work you have to get done. Anybody want to have Marcia, Sue, Susan, Millinger, anybody else want to say anything before we go?
Just want to note that I put a couple of books in the chat about participatory action research. So I don't think I made them. I'll figure out how to make them to everyone in case you wanted them. And not just Kathy. So they're in there if you want them.
Super good, fabulous group. Thank you so much. Thank you, RJC. Thank you to Doreen and your wonderful staff. And I know we'll all be in touch. We need everyone's email addresses so that we can continue this dialogue on an individual basis as well, to Doreen and Delinda and to all of you out there. Thank you so much to Marcy and Ash and Andrea. Thank you, everyone.
Before we go, I'd like to hear what Susan has to say. Susan has her hands up, and I do want to hear what she has to say before we hang up.
Well, Susan mostly wants to say thank you very much. Thank you for having this program, Andrea, and thank you for what all you've accomplished in Amherst, Doreen. It really sounds wonderful. I'm from Shutesbury, so I really don't get to appreciate it, but I've learned a heck of a lot about what you've accomplished, and it's wonderful. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
And
Susan,
Susan, by the way, is the one that's on the Mass State League board, the steering committee or board, and she's also very active in the DEI committee of the Massachusetts League. So she's a great liaison to our local league and to the state league.
Just trying to help.
Thank you.
Right. Thanks, Doreen.
And thank you all for coming. And I appreciate it very much. We all appreciate you. And for all the people who are just working, keep on working. And I'm Andrea Battle in lowercase 88@gmail. If anybody wants to .com, if anybody wants to find out anybody else's address, or you want to find out, I'll give you Martha's and see if we can get together and do some of the things what we would love to do with the middle school kids. We would really like to. So I'm sure that I will be hearing from Delinda. If nothing else, she will keep me informed. So thank you again. And again, don't forget to fill out the survey before you leave. As you're leaving, you'll see it. And thank you. Have a good night and have a good rest of the week. Okay.
Thank you, fellow honorees. Pleasure to be in the same place as you.
Absolutely. Congratulations.